Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to the LO3 podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Thursday, December 12th, 2019. Let's actually look at the executive order once again. That was officially released from WhiteHouse.gov. It was very similar from the rough draft that the Jewish Insider released. And I'm going to be talking about that. And interesting here about Roger Stone. I'll do the things, an article on him. And this one came out like almost last week. I'm going to check that one as well. Gun control in Florida costs lives. And to be very frank, it will be this executive order he did is invalid. And I say that in good faith because it never went through the correct protocol. There's always these unilateral moves. It happens so many times. Even during the Obama administration, or Franklin D. Roosevelt administration, etc. You can't just create or alter laws that are in the books. You know, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act is considered unconstitutional to many of the scholars. I always believe in the rights of individuals. However, when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism or hatred as a whole, I do endorse that. I'm fighting hatred, tyranny. Of course, tyranny is under the animosity category. But I'm going to narrate this because I was watching, some stuff on it, and I'm not really too impressed, okay? And it's funny, too, before I proceed, I was looking at that article by op-ed by Eric Holder saying William Barr is unfit and incapable of upholding the rule of law. Like, he's the greatest constitutionalist ever. He's the Frederick Douglass of attorney generals. What a chump. I'm sorry. I just find this doublespeak. Exceptionalism. And I know where I tweeted a couple of things pertaining to Eric Holder. To him, okay, hey, can you explain this? Remember, he was pro-enslavement. He hated people's right to keep and bear arms. He believed in, brainwashing people. You can look that up on YouTube. He was an assistant attorney general to Janet Reno. Just to give you an example. And he called Barr unfit, which I'm not crazy about the man myself. But shut up. You suck at what you done. You're a corrupt hack. And calling him out is in null and void. So Eric Holder, watch it, buddy. You're the one who had made derisive accomplishments as Attorney General. So without further ado, I'm going to be reading here from WhiteHouse.gov on the executive order on combating anti-Semitism. And what he has to say is what it has to say here. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it's hereby ordered as follows. Okay, I like that. By the Constitution and the laws of the United States, even though some of them are invalid laws or negated ex post facto, right? It says here, Section 1 policy. My administration is committed to combating the rise of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic incidences in the United States and around the world. So we're going to become the world police when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitic incidences have increased since 2013, and students in particular continue to face anti-Semitic harassment in schools and on university and college campuses. Yeah, and defamation leagues involved, and APAC. Yeah, very liberating, pro-liberty organizations, correct? Many of us call them foreign agents as far as we're concerned. Well, we'll continue. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 Title 6, Title 42, U.S. Code 2000, D et sequence, prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. While Title 6 does not cover discrimination based on religion, individuals who face discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin do not lose protection under Title 6 for being a member of a group that shares common religious practices. Discrimination against Jews may give rise to a Title 6 violation when discrimination is based on individual race, color, or national origin. So you're trying to mix this up here. More of a compression. Compounding. It shall be the policy of the executive branch to enforce Title VI against prohibited forms of discrimination rooted in anti-Semitism as vigorously as against all other forms of discrimination prohibited by Title VI. Section 2. Ensuring robust enforcement of Title VI. A. Enforcing the Title VI and identifying evidence of discrimination is based on race, color, or national origin. All executive departments and agencies charged with enforcing Title VI shall consider the following. Subsection 1. The non-legally binding work definition of anti-Semitism adopted on May 6, 2013 by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, which states anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews, rhetorical and physical manifestation of anti-Semitism, and directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and their property toward Jewish communities, institutions, and religious facilities. So if you're a Phoenician or Arab, you don't count. I think Croatian, I believe, is too, right? I could be mistaken, but I'll continue on. And 2, the contemporary examples of anti-Semitism identified by IHRA to extent that any examples might be useful as evidence of discriminatory intent. Pretty vague, can we say. B, in considering the material described in subsections A1 and A2 of this section, agencies shall not diminish or infringe upon any right protected under federal law or under the First Amendment. So if I criticize Israel, the government of Israel, in these facilities, will my First Amendment still be honored? See, it's like a double-edged sword when you look at this. As with all other Title VI complaints, the inquiry into whether a particular act constitutes discrimination prohibited by Title VI will require a detailed analysis of the allegations. Section 3. Additional authorities prohibiting anti-Semitic discrimination. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the head of the agency charged with enforcing Title VI shall submit a report to the President through the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, identifying additional non-discrimination authorities within its enforcement authority with respect to which the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism could be considered. 4. Rule of construction. Nothing in this order shall be construed to alter the evidentiary requirements pursuant to which an agency makes a determination that conduct, including harassment, amounts to actionable discrimination or to diminish or infringe upon the rights protected under any other provision of law. 5. General provisions. A. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect. Subsection 1. The authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or head thereof. Or 2. Subsection. The function of the direct office of management and budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. C. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit substantive or procedural enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its department, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agencies, or any other person. He just signed this on December 11th, 2019. Pretty biased, you could say, and not that well specific. Because they try to do that, certain areas you have to really look at these things a lot more thorough. And I just find it as a complete turnoff in these areas. However, it's just one of the areas you should not really go out and beat on people for their religious belief or their background, etc. I agree. That is unacceptable in my realm. But if you have a discussion about questioning the accuracy count of the Holocaust that happened in occupied Europe, and don't get me wrong, I believe a lot of it happened, but how about the numbers themselves? Because I know they like to use, like the ADL and a few other Jewish organizations, like to use 6 million people. So the question I have for them, does 11.5 million don't count? The rest of them don't count? And it's interesting because I know according to the book by late R.J. Rummel, Death by Government, he did his homework, and they said about almost 21.5 million people died in the hands of the Third Reich. But everyone said probably a lot of Jewish people have died, about 6 million. So those are questions, and I, say that in good faith. Those are the areas we have to really look at thoroughly. And they don't want, in some colleges, some states, like in Florida, with the Anti-Semitism Act, they don't want people having that discussion or criticize the government of Israel. This here is possible. They can use that on the universities around the country that get public funding. That's why federal funding with these institutions is a catch-22, and they don't really have the control on the Department of Education, on the states, universities, and all that, public universities and private. So it's interesting. I actually seen the Department of State's definition on anti-Semitism. And I'll read this. It's a couple of pages long here, but not that bad. But it says here, defining anti-Semitism, the Department of State has used a working definition along with examples of anti-Semitism since 2010. On May 26, 2016, the 31 member states of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, of which the United States is a member, adopted a non-legally binding work definition of anti-Semitism as its plenary in Budapest. This definition is consistent with and builds upon the information contained in the 2010 State Department definition as a member of the IHRA. The United States now uses this working definition and has encouraged other governments and international organizations to use it as well. As it says here in Budapest, 26th of May 2016, in the spirit of Stockholm Declaration that states, with humanity still scarred by anti-Semitism and xenophobia, the international community shares a solemn responsibility to fight those evils. The Committee on Anti-Semitism and Holocaust Denial, called the IHRA Plenary in Budapest, it's in Hungary, 2015, to adopt the following working definition of anti-Semitism. On May 26, 2016, the plenary, it is a plenary, I said plenary originally, so plenary in Budapest decided to adopt the following non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. This is it right here. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed towards Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and to their property, toward Jewish communities, institutions, and religious facilities. So, in international law community perspective, if the Israeli governmental delegates, the IDF and all that, if they beat on Palestinians, and many of them are Jews, that's declared anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic. So you have to always look at the bigger picture here. So it says here, to guide IHRA its work, the following examples may serve as illustrations. Manifestations might include the targeting of the State of Israel. Okay. So if you criticize the State of Israel, might include targeting the state of Israel, conceived as a Jewish collectivity. Okay, so if you criticize the state of Israel, the government, they can say you're a potential anti-Semite. Right? However, criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. Interesting there, right? However, anti-Semitism frequently charges Jews with conspiring to harm humanity, and is often used to blame Jews for why things go wrong. And of course, collective witch hunting is irrelevant in my realm. This is interesting because if you read Revelations chapter 2, 9, and chapter 3 and 9, gave us a warning about individuals claiming to be Jewish, but they're liars. They're known as the synagogue of Satan. So that's why if you hear me use the term Gino or Ginos, which means Jew name only or Judaic name only, I call them out as frauds, imposters. That's not being anti-Semitic either, okay? So I will continue on here, folks. And it says here, it is expressed in speech, writing, visual forms, and action, and employs sinister stereotypes and negative character traits. Witch hunting has always been a big issue. And remember, many people got slaughtered by the hands of tyrannical governments in that area, including the nation of Israel. They stereotype people too, the government themselves, tyrannical elements. Contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, and in the religious sphere could, taken into account the overall context, include, but are not limited to, calling for aiding or justifying the killing, harm, or harming of Jews in the name of racial ideology or an extremist view of religion. Yeah, so actually ethno supremacy and all that is not good either. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as especially, but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. Can we say censor, 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 censor? So don't talk about the Rothschilds or the World Bank or Paul Wahlberg starting the Federal Reserve, because they may call you, because remember, he was supposedly Jewish himself, but they'll say that's being a bigot. Accusing Jews as a people for being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even as for acts committed by non-Jews. Denying the fact, scope, mechanisms, e.g. gas chambers, or intentionally the genocide of the Jewish people at the hands of the National Socialist Germany and its supporters and accomplices during World War II. The Holocaust. Accusing the Jews as a people or the Israel as a state for inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Accusing the Jewish citizens for being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Yeah, it's very dangerous. Remember, you got a lot of dual citizens that are American and Israeli. Okay, and John Jay warned us about that in Phyllis Papers 2 through 5 about the dangers of foreign influences, and once again, George Washington's farewell address. I know I've repeated myself on these things in the past, but for the first time listeners, pay attention. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g., by claiming that the existence of the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Well, those are claiming that the Rothschilds were responsible for creating the nation of Israel. And, of course, Britain was controlling Palestine. So there's a lot of, double dealing, double crossing going on, and the rank and files got taken advantage of. And I seen this documentary called No Guns for Jews, which is really good. I recommend people check it out. When they want to disarm the Jews in Palestine around 1945, and the government told them, we'll protect you, don't worry about it. That was a good, saying, hey, here's the A, up yours, getting the big middle finger. That's how the resistance started. So I say this in good faith, many people do believe that was false, that was a prearranged to make that happen. but the rank and file from both sides suffer most. So I will continue on here. Applying double standards by requiring of its behavior not accepted or demanded any other democratic nation. Well, if you actually, but it's okay for them to use double standards, right? People in that mindset. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g. claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel or Israelis. Actually, it was a corrupt element within the Pharisees and the Sadducees that were responsible. The corrupt elements that scapegoated Jesus. All right, because he had the courage. Jesus had the courage to call them out. Remember, a lot of them were money changers too. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Well, if you're gonna support apartheid and taking people's land and pillaging folks, Nazis did it, tyrants did it. So, yeah, I'm just laughing because it's tyranny as a whole, regardless if you like it or not. Holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the state of Israel. Now, because remember, that's like, sometimes I'll say this. If you have that mindset, it's pretty damn ludicrous, because there are factions as well. There's a lot of people who don't like what the hell is going on there. Many of them are Jewish, Judaic by faith, are pissed about it. But everyone has their own views. And it says here, anti-Semitic acts are criminal when they are so defined by law. For example, denial of the Holocaust or distribution of anti-Semitic materials in some countries. Well, I'll call freedom of the press. You have the right to criticize. You have the right to protect unpopular speech as well, folks. They don't want that. Criminal acts are anti-Semitic when the targets of attacks, wherever there are people or property, such as buildings, schools, places of worship, and cemeteries, are selected because they are or they perceive to be Jewish or linked to Jews. So I tell people I support the right for self-defense, and even Jewish natural law will attest to that. Anti-Semitic discrimination is to denial of Jews of opportunities or services available to others and illegal in many countries. So I always say judge them by their actions. That's it. But there's a lot of very controversial things. I find this executive order unconstitutional. It's anti-liberty. I did an article on that a while back about liberty, discrimination is liberty. Pick and choose who you want to associate with, as long as you don't violate others. And the contrary to that, it contradicts Article 1 because the Congress is supposed to make the laws. He can't, and President Trump can't just do a unilateral decision. Just an example. And I didn't learn from CNN. I don't go by that stuff either. I just went to the own website, whitehouse.gov, and gave you my intake on it. Yes, it is an illegal document in good faith. And it's not going around. I'm not here to encourage going Jew bashing, anything like that, or going anti-Semitic on people. Doesn't matter if they're Jewish, Arabian, or Arab, Phoenicians, so forth. Because, for Assyrians, and maybe that too. I may be, like I said, but I don't look sacred Semites in that area. But criticizing Israel, you're entitled to do that. That's why this here is null and void. I know I'm digressing. And what's really disturbing, you got some people in Congress that support this order. And they didn't pass a law. You know what? They breached their oath of office. Unfit. Because you go by the book. Period. No exceptions. Go by the supreme law. Not this magic wand theory. That's how I see it on this executive order. Unconstitutional. No exceptions. All right, next one here. came from American Free Press by Donald Jeffries. Just got this released this in public today. Deep State tries to break Stone. The Deep State promulgation of the absurd and thoroughly discredited Russian collusion theory has claimed another victim. Former Trump aide and Roger Stone was convicted on 7 counts of obstruction, witness tampering, and making false statements. The 24-page indictment against him revealed the Warren Report for surrealism. There is a mention, for instance, Stone threatening a dog. Mike Barnett, chairman of the Palm Beach County Republican Party, spoke for many when he said Roger Stone is a friend of ours. We appreciate his service to the president. We believe he's a real patriot. We also believe that he was railroaded and his conviction is not fair. The whole Russian collusion investigation was a sham, and his conviction stems from the initial investigation that was not based in merit. We hope he appeals. We hope that justice will eventually prevail for Roger. Decided, a deluded Florida Democrat Party chair Terry Rizzo counted 5 of Trump's lieutenants, Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, and Roger Stone have all pleaded guilty or have been convicted of a crime. The stench of corruption is all around Donald Trump, and today's ruling reminds us how important and needed Congress impeachment inquiry is. Oh yeah, so Debbie Wasserman-Schultz and Ted Deutsch are constitutionally inclined. They are highly intelligent people. And your former sidekick Attorney General Eric Holder is Frederick Douglass, right? Give me a confounded break. If I would have heard that from her in person, I'd be laughing at her. Go, what's so funny? Go, your rhetoric, it smells so bad. I need to get a light a torch to get rid of the stench. Let's continue here. It has not been a loss on many supporters still clamoring for Trump to fulfill his campaign promise to drain the swamp. That so many of his loyal supporters have been convicted on laughable charges. We will not single deep state criminal has ever been prosecuted. Despite the continuing false mantra that Russians hacked Democratic National Committee emails and WikiLeaks released them in order to damage Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, the facts suggest otherwise. Julian Assange, who remains in exile and failing health, has all but named former DNC staffer Seth Rich as the individual who leaked the emails and was subsequently the victim of the unsolved murder that no one, including his family, is interested in investigating. None of our state-controlled media has the slightest interest in the overt corruption those DNC emails revealed, i.e., an open plan to steal the nomination from voter favorite Bernie Sanders and to hand nomination to Queen of Corruption Hillary Clinton. Thus the mention of Rich's name now brings the condemnation of every establishment liberal. Precisely, I have to agree on that. Even the GOP did that to Ron Paul in 2012 to get their Goldman Sachs twin brother, who was related to Obama, Mitt Romney. So continue on here. Incredibly, Stone faces the prospect of decades in prison for these invented crimes. The prosecutions and possible prosecutions of figures like Manafort, Flynn, Bannon, and Jeremy Corbyn are all tethered to the Russiagate fairy tale. The emptiness of the Mueller report appears not to have stopped these prosecutions of Trump's loyalists, as our injustice system is revealing itself to the world as thoroughly corrupted, filled with politicized judges, prosecutors, and juries intended on criminalizing their ideological opponents. While Stone may be serving hard time for the potential email contact with heroic whistleblower Assange, Hillary Clinton, who admitted to disposing 33,000 emails, and having the FBI destroy a laptop with a hammer remained free at large. While a federal jury has found Stone guilty of lying to Congress, members of Congress themselves cannot be prosecuted for lying on the floor of the House or the Senate. Can we say exceptionalism? The Constitution provides our representatives with immunity from lawsuits or criminal prosecution or anything they say during speeches or debates. This protection extends to the committee reports and resolutions. Stone has been treated like a serial killer, beginning with the pre-dawn FBI raid on his home this past February. And I always have to say, I'm going to stop there for a moment. I wrote a letter to Sheriff Tony, okay, on this, and didn't get a response because he had the 10th Amendment authority to say no. And I agree with him. If you would have done that, I would have respect that. Tony Gregory, Sheriff Tony Gregory. I would have, support that. All right. So continue on here. The judge overseeing the prosecution, Amy Berman Jackson, was a typically partisan opponent of Barack Obama. Early on, she hit Stone with a gag order and threatened to jail him. Berman was previously assigned to Mueller's ridiculous hacking case against 12 Russians. Berman also presided over the Manafort hearing, bluntly telling him that she determined he had intentionally lied. She refused to allow Stone's defense to show the Russian collusion nonsense for what it was. Interesting. So based on this, I'll continue on here. Her record of judicial activism is clear, and her lifelong appointment to the federal branch assures that anyone with the pedigree of a Stone will not be treated fairly in her courtroom. So right there, based on this report, Judge Amy Berman Jackson breached her oath of office by not giving Mr. Stone a right to a fair trial guaranteed under the Sixth Amendment of our U.S. Constitution, also known as the Bill of Rights. That's an impeachable offense. But all those cowards in Congress, not worried about her. See, that's how pathetic these people are, all right? A caveat here, the author is tangentially associated with Stone by virtue of him writing the foreword to the paperback of Hidden History, an expose of modern crimes, conspiracies, and cover-ups in American politics. He was very supportive of that work, and during one phone conversation stated, Trump knows all about the conspiracies. Would you love him? If there is the latest bit of sincerity behind all his rhetoric, Trump will pardon. Stone. Stone was loyal to a fault to Trump. Even as the president ignored or broke one campaign promise after another, that is the only chance Stone has. He certainly can't trust a rigged legal system to provide justice. And one thing I told folks when this verdict, him being guilty, this is just a tune-up for Julian Assange. Because the case was in Northern Virginia. And many of them work for the federal government. So, call about conflict of interest. Damn right. And I'm no Roger Stone lover. I know he's a hustler. He actually, if I'm correct, he did some stuff with endorsing Scott Israel for sheriff in Broward County. There's some articles on it. You can look it up. However, this was unacceptable, unconstitutional, damn right treasonous, what they've done to Mrs. Stone. He's just another political prisoner, like many others. Including Schaefer Cox. Big list. Wider than you and I, my friends. When it comes to tyranny, it affects every single one of us. I do support Roger Stone appealing this case. Be completely exonerated. Rated. That's why they didn't have the trial here, because they know they will lose. That's why they brought up Northern Virginia, right near Washington, D.C. ain't that convenient. And you, Judge Jackson, you're a treasonous parasite. Prove me wrong if you dare. You can look me up, I don't give a damn. I'm tired of everyone's propaganda machine anyway. Yes, I'm critical today of Donald Trump myself. Like I said, I'm not even no fan of Roger Stone, but I do stand on my principles. I'm going to do one more here. And this one, actually one moment. I'll be right back. Alright. It's interesting because this one came on recently from the American Free Press as well. And from the 49th, 50th edition issue. Who's in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book? Mark Anderson, who only had actual unredacted copy of Jeffrey Epstein's infamous little black book, contains the names of certain recognizable elites from the Bilderberg, CFR, Trilateral, banking access, among other well-known people. The several blogs and timeline news outlets, including the St. Louis Times, are treating the list, which sport 92 pages and is labeled within the years of 2004-2005. One moment here. Alright, cool. So I'm going to continue reading here. St. Louis Times are treating the list, which sports 92 pages, is labeled with the years 2004-2005 as authentic through its may only be one of many of Epstein's little black books, but the names... Sorry about that, I'm just trying to... But the names listed intimate with Epstein walked into elite circles. Any person in inclusion in the list does not confirm, nor were implying it's confirmed what the person listed took place in illicit activities at Epstein's Getaway Island or anywhere else. The book is purely a list of names of about page 60. Thereafter is largely places, hotels, rental cars, outlets, eateries, airports, taxi services, massage parlors, law firms, real estate, or offices, etc., with the additional names sprinkled in the general public, and the line of the White House is listed. Interestingly, most of the names of these movers and shakers have their own hyper-private phone numbers and or email addresses listed as well, though most are likely have been changed. Physical addresses are included from that time. The prominent members are revealed by scans and include Harry Kissinger, David Rockefeller, Conrad Black, Michael Bloomberg, who's running for president. Hey, so what do you know about Jeffrey Epstein, Bloomberg? So call him out on it if you haven't come to those rallies. Explain why you're in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book. Tony Blair, Henry Kravis, former Senator George Mitchell, former Senator John Kerry, Skull and Bones, Yale, John McKeithwaite, Edgar Bronfman Jr., Walter Isaacson, Rupert Murdoch, Evelyn Rothschild. Other prominent notables: Jeffrey Sachs, Peter Mendelsohn, Peter Soros, John Hutchman, David Koch, Bill Richardson, Robert Rosenstein, Ira Magaziner, Senator Edward Kennedy, Bobby and Mary Kennedy, Ethel Kennedy, Elie Wiesel, Richard Brannon, Steve and Sabine Forbes, the Duchess and Duke of York, Alan Dershowitz, Donald J. Trump, Ehud Olmert, Ehud Barak, Thomas and Nick Prisker. The Prisker family supports Chicago Council of Global Affairs. Some others of interest: Kevin Spacey, Mick Jagger, Jimmy Buffett and Jane, Alec Baldwin, Sir David Frost, Phil Collins, John Cleese and Alice Faye, Fawlty Towers and Mighty Pontons, Dustin Hoffman, Bobby Marie Shiver, Joan Rivers, Mike Wallace, Barbara Walters, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, Courtney Love, Lauren Hutton, Liz Hurley, Isaac Perlman, Angie Everhart, Naomi Campbell, Mark Getty. Probably 80 of the pages average 5 names per page of individuals, making a list of about 400 names. Bill Clinton wasn't not listed. Interesting there. So, how many of those swingers are out there, right? Voyeurs, and possibly involved with Jeffrey Epstein. So that's a legitimate question. All you truthers out there should ask Michael Bloomberg, who's running for president. Do you want a guy who has that pedophile fetish? Yeah. Member of the Council of Foreign Relations? That's what Michael Bloomberg is. Another bend over Bob to the New World Order. Well, you got to see how far this baby goes. Just enjoying every minute of it, to be exact. All right, so I'm going to do one more here. And this one came out last week, the 6th. Where are you here? Oops. Came out on the 6th. And this one's entitled Gun control in Florida costs lives. This guy came from SoFax, WorldPress.com. Came out the 6th of December. I rewatched the news coverage of murderers' attack on a Florida high school. I also read about an armed store clerk in Florida who saved his life by stopping an armed robber. I read about the attack on a Florida homeowner who saved her life because she was armed. One event is seen and the other goes unseen. The media floods us with terrible, horrible images of murder, but doesn't show us thousands of examples of armed defense. We need to know the whole truth before we can make good choices about gun ownership and gun control. Once we look at both sides, we see that disarming honest citizens in Florida will cost more lives than it could possibly save. And who wrote this? Just one moment here. I'm going to put the initial RM. All right, we'll continue on here. Florida was called the Gunshine State. It earned the nickname back in 1987 when it became a shall-issue state that reserved a century of gun control laws where local officials denied gun ownership to racial and political minorities. Our gun control laws always made it illegal for criminals to have guns, but since criminals don't obey the law, these gun control laws only disarm law-abiding citizens who ask the government for permission. The regulations passed 2 decades ago in Florida meant that local officials shall issue firearms permit unless the applicant has a criminal record. These are legendary stories among Florida law enforcement about failing rate of sexual assault once women could again carry a concealed firearm. I remember those times too. And I will continue on. That was 20 years ago. And a lot has changed since then. Florida now has a number of gun control laws, and some politicians want to pass many more. Do these laws save lives or cost lives? It's a question of the life or death, even a concern as long as the proposed legislation earn the politicians a few minutes in front of the national news cameras and bring in campaign donations. That's a question. We have to dig past the headlines to find the truth. Does gun control work for politicians, or does gun control work for us? The rate of concealed carry in Florida is higher than the average rate for states that issue permits to the public. To be specific, 1 out of 7 eligible adults have their permit in Florida, 13.4%. While above average, the Florida carry's rate isn't close to the states with the highest rate of concealed carry. Alabama is closer in 1 of 3. Which is 30.3%. Eligible adults, even in Pennsylvania, is about 1 in 6, 15.3%. while there are several counties in Pennsylvania where the state rate is closer to 50%. Some 16 states do not require any state permit for law-abiding citizens or to carry a concealed firearm in public. What does it mean for citizens of Florida? Those carry rates tell us people want an impact of our restrictive firearm laws. We think of Florida having permissive firearm regulations, but compared to Alabama, those concealed carry restrictions disarm over 2.25 million Floridians who want it to carry. Those regulations touch a lot of lives. You can imagine what happened when you're disarming honest people in Jacksonville, Miami, Tampa, Orlando combined. The results are shocking. Using the FBI rates of violent crime, each year over 8,400 victims of violent crime were disarmed by Florida's concealed carry laws. Over 700 of these victims were rape victims each year. That is an additional 2 rape victims per day. Florida's restrictive gun laws cost its citizens their property, their dignity, and their lives. Unfortunately, news gets worse. Those estimates are calculated by using the average U.S. crime rate. The bad news is that the rate of violent crime in several Florida cities is far above average. Let me leave you with some good news that is buried deep in the old Department of Justice reports. Armed victims of sexual assault are not raped. That great news seldom makes the news. For me, there are more than statistics. The victims have faces and names. I know people who are sexually assaulted now choose to go armed for their defense. Some of them live in Florida. Those victims are someone's family and friends. If you think about it, you probably know the victim of sexual assault who was disarmed. Florida also made its firearm laws more restrictive by raising minimum age for firearms ownership, which is unconstitutional, by the way. I will continue on here. That means a young woman can marry, have children, drive a huge commercial truck for a living, or fly an airplane, but she shouldn't be allowed to protect her family with a firearm. In Florida, bad guys know that the 20-year-old clerk working rights at a convenience store is disarmed. Disarming the good guys doesn't disarm the bad guys. Despite what the politicians and the press tell us, mass murderers and other criminals break our gun laws. So these firearm regulations cost lives rather than save them. The political advocacy for gun control say they want to get rid of guns, but their actions say otherwise. They have armed guards to protect them at work. Many security services protect them at home and as they travel. Some of the loudest political advocates for gun control own guns for their personal protection. They want us disarmed while they are protected by men with guns. We deserve better. You deserve better. The right of self-defense saves lives every day, even if that story is deliberately buried on the back page. Gun control politicians claim it is for the children, but in reality, more gun control in Florida will cost more lives. It could be the lives of those you love. Protect them now. And there's lots of sources in here. You can look it up for yourselves, my friends. And I'll let you folks know one thing. I was against the permits. It violates the basic rights under Article 1, Section 2 of our Florida Constitution. All our natural rights are considered inalienable. That means right to carry, right to own a firearm. And in addition to, when they did the long rifle thing, the 21 and over on Senate Bill 726 in 2018, which is the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School Safety Act, that was illegal because it breaches Amendment 11 of our Florida Constitution. No ands, ifs, or buts. You got a lot of you clowns in there claiming to go to law school and you run for office, you're going to tell me how to live? The hell with you. It's repugnant. It's prohibited. And that violates Article 1, Section 10 of our Florida Constitution as well. That's considered ex post facto law or de facto laws. The bottom line is this, my friends. It's a natural born right to defend yourselves and family in all means necessary. The fact is this, too. The police aren't obligated to protect an individual. You look at the case of Wong versus the City of Miami, 1970. And, of course, what happened when they tried to sue the Broward School Board and the Broward Sheriff's Office, it got tossed out as well. Sovereign immunity, tort liability, Florida Statute 768.28. Look it up. Bottom line is this. You have the right to live and value it, including the ones you love. So to hell with these politicians. If they want tougher gun laws, you call them out. Go, I want you guys unarmed. I want the people you associate with, your associates, unarmed. I want your guards turning their guns. See how they react. They'll flip. That's how I look at it, my friends. You know where I battle these people in my territory as well. So you're not the only one that's feeling it. Those are the facts. Carry a firearm without a permit. There's no victim. There's no crime. And that is it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us on our social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or we send something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence with decorum. I will leave the footnotes of the stuff I narrated on my speaker page. And that is all. Once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.